What's up, everybody? I'm Jonathan the Baptist, and today we're going to talk about Mike Winger, who apparently is being attacked or slandered. Now, if you don't know who Mike Winger is, he's a fairly big Christian YouTuber. He's a guy that I've listened to forever, and I don't agree with everything he says. Namely, like he's a free willy. That's what I call him. My parents are free willies, so I feel like I have the right to call him that. And I'm a Calvinist, so he's a free willy. I'm a Calvinist, and there's other things, and it's just like anybody. You listen to anybody. Pretty much, and you're going to disagree with them on some things, and that's okay. It's okay. We agree on the important things about the gospel, but I saw this video pop up from him, and I was like, whoa, we've got somebody's slandering Mike Winger, or maybe not slander, they're lying about Mike Winger and spreading false truths about him. So here's the video. Let me show you. So this is Mike Winger's video. And so there's two people. It's this guy whose name is Tim Hurd. I haven't heard of him. And he's responding to this video, which is by Doctrinal Watchdog. Now, I have heard of Doctrinal Watchdog. I don't really watch any of his videos. I don't necessarily disagree with him theologically, for the at least what I've heard. But I don't really watch his videos, so I don't really know. He did a bunch of polls for a while, and that's how I saw him, because apparently YouTube is more likely to recommend rando people that I've never watched videos of if they do polls. So maybe that's something I should start doing, is just, here's a random poll. Like, I don't know why YouTube recommended it, but I did a bunch of his polls, just for fun, and sometimes I very much disagreed with his stuff, but it is what it is. But his videos weren't really my thing, so I just left it alone at that. Anyway, so I don't want to review Mike Winger's video. Number one, it's an hour, and I don't have an hour. Also, I don't want to repeat everything that Mike Winger has done, because I think he thoroughly debunks everything in this video, and really there's several of the videos. And I don't necessarily agree with all of Mike Winger's positions in this, which is why I thought it would be interesting for me to say or talk about it, because I'm a Calvinist. I'm going to disagree with him even on certain things, and I thought it might be interesting for me to, as someone who disagrees with Mike on certain things, to discuss why I agree with Mike that these are bad allegations against him. So let's watch the regular video and not his. So you should go watch Mike Winger's video. It's long, but it's pretty good. And so go watch this. But here's the OG video, titled Mike Winger and Ruslan. I've heard of Ruslan because he did a video with A.D. Robles. That's the only reason I know him. I've never watched his videos. Trash MacArthur while defending Bethel Church. Tongues and slaying the Spirit. So I have heard some of this video because I was listening to it this morning while I was doing stuff. But so yeah, I don't know. I was watching a reaction to this video. So let's actually watch this whole video and see how it goes. This is a long intro. Sorry about that. Here we go. Mike Winger and Ruslan KD speak of their charismatic Pentecostal experiences / defend Bill Johnson of Bethel Church. Okay. let's see if that's a true claim.
You would never call them heretics or wolf in sheep's clothing, right? And I think that's
I'm gonna cut this up.
we don't see that enough in terms of
It's quiet on
engaging
my
with
end,
folks that
which
are a
means
bit
it's
more
probably quiet for
charismatic,
y'all.
that it's always their heretics, their false teachers, their wolves in sheep's clothing, that the tongues are pagan. Like I remember reading John MacArthur's study Bible commentary, and he reading through First Corinthians, and he's like, yeah, this was a pagan thing, it's demonic. And I'm just like how is this so wild? But in your video regarding Bethel, you were extremely gracious in not questioning their salvation, and not questioning and not calling them heretics and false teachers, which is always thrown around loosely about everybody. This person's a heretic. It's always about a secondary issue. This person's a heretic. This person's a false teacher. This person's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
I get called that all the time.
People do throw around heretic all the time. One of my favorites is from Martin Luther. Like he just started, like after a while, like he started getting bolder and bolder. And if you watch like through his writings, like eventually he just starts calling everybody who disagrees with him on just about anything a heretic. It's pretty great. Anyways, but I just laugh about it. You know, it is what it is. Now I will say, I disagree with Mike Winger on this. I do appreciate that he's a lot more cautious about this, and maybe this is something that I could learn from him, that maybe it is better to be more cautious about who you're calling a heretic. I generally try not to argue or determine about people's salvation, because I don't know them. Like I've heard Ruslan be called a heretic before. I don't know the guy. It's hard for me to say. All I can do is listen to what people say, and judge that way. Like if you go to my church, that's different. Like we're gonna, one of part of church becoming a member is us with the keys of the kingdom, affirming your salvation. So if you're not saved, we're not going to let you join the church because you're not saved. The church is a body of believers. That's the Baptist, the Baptist way. But you know, for people I don't know, like it's like I don't know. I can make more educated guesses for some than others based on their actions. But you know, I think it's interesting. Like I also want to distinguish where I might disagree with Mike Winger is false teachers. So I can listen to somebody and know whether that person is a false teacher or not, irregardless as to whether they're actually a Christian or not. So can Christians be false teachers? That's an interesting question. I think that Christian people can be misled and teach bad things, maybe not intentionally, but this is where I get to the problem, where I think that I'm a lot harsher with false teachers or people teaching awful doctrines than I am with, let's say, the people at the church. So like Bethel Church, I'll defend Bethel Church because I don't know. There's probably Christians there who are going to an unhealthy church, but I'm not gonna defend the pastor because the pastor should know better. There's a higher standard for pastors because they're teaching, they're leading, they're supposed to be leading people to Christ. And if you're not doing that, if you're actually leading them away from Christ, well, it's your head on the chopping block there. Like, God's going to hold you accountable in the end. Now, does that make you not a Christian? That's a different question. And I just don't know. Like, let's take the classic example of Joel Osteen. I don't know whether the guy's a Christian or not. I like that Mike Winger is on the side where he's like, I don't know. I'm not going to judge. I'll judge harshly his teachings, but I don't know where he is personally. And Mike Winger will say, yes, I think he is. I don't think he is. That's my educated guess, but I don't know. Like if I show up in heaven and Joel Osteen is there, I'm gonna be like, hey, praise the Lord because another sinner was saved. But I have my doubts. and I'll say, hey, this guy's a false teacher. He's teaching bad things. You should not listen to him because he's not actually preaching the gospel. He's not leading people to Christ. But I think I want to distinguish between calling out false doctrines and false teachers and making, the church itself. I've known people who've gone to bad churches, who are members of bad churches, and I'm like, listen, like you should leave. You should come to my church because it's better. But yeah, so I want to be hesitant about throwing out the heresy claim. It's much, and the Calvinist free willy debate. Like if you're not, denying the sovereignty of God, and if you're not like denying the human responsibility, I think you're probably fine. And that's one of those issues that everybody's like, oh, you're a heretic if you disagree with me, even though the church has disagreed for 2,000 years. All right, let's keep going.
That's hilarious that you would get called that. So, in terms of secondary issues, the charismatic side, you believe in the gifts of the Spirit, right? I believe in the gifts. I call myself charismatic.
They name the name of Christ. They've got the essentials of the faith. For the most part, they do. Even Bethel. I didn't see a false
video
gospel
itself,
in Bethel's
not me.
teaching.
I refuse to create.
All right, so just a couple things. That was the video messing up. It's not my video. It's the video itself. I've watched it a couple times. Just for full transparency, I am not a cessationalist. I do believe that the spiritual gifts are for the church. I do not like how the Pentecostals interpret the spiritual gifts. So I am not a cessationalist, so I do think that the spiritual gifts continue to today, but I do not believe that the Pentecostals have the right interpretation of what the spiritual gifts look like. Maybe I'll do another video if y'all are really interested in it, but I am I disagree with cessationalists. I guess I would say I'm open, but I'm very, very cautious, which is about where I am in most of my theology. I'm open but cautious on a lot of things. So this video has a little bit of a cut. This is Doctrinal Watchdog's video. It's got a little bit of a cut. He's basically saying, Mike Winger says, I listened to all of this guy's videos, and I never heard anything that was a false gospel. And then, so what he does is he cuts to an actual sermon that he is claiming is a false gospel. So let's listen to that.
What they do. Even Bethel. I didn't see a false gospel in Bethel's teaching.
I refuse to create a theology that allows for sickness. So here's this realm of the miraculous that is waiting for the stewardship of the knowledge of God put into decrees that are proclaimed over each other.
So let me back this up a little bit here, because he's preaching a false gospel by saying these words.
And interpreted by many as disease.
This is some other guy. I don't know who it is.
By God.
But I like the Cairo. You can't see it because of my face here. Cairo.
No, it's not. Paul told Timothy to take wine for his frequent ailments.
Jesus didn't model it.
Jesus did not heal everybody who came to him. Mark 1 is very clear on that.
He didn't teach it. And Paul said, you can't change the standard.
Sorry, I'm loving it. This
the
guy
standard
is
is
so
not
bad.
that Christians always get healed. That's not biblical, nor is it in line with even reality.
They name the name of Christ. They've got the essentials of the faith. For the most part, they do. Even Bethel. I didn't see a false gospel in Bethel's teaching. Not that I'm aware of. All right,
so supposedly what we just saw is a false gospel. I'm gonna be honest. I've seen that little clip. I haven't seen this whole video too many times, except for like the Winger's reaction to the other guy's reaction to this video. That's the only time I've actually seen it the whole way through, and I was, only half paying attention. Anywho, but I don't understand what that guy's trying to say. That pastor I guess it's from Bethel. He says, I guess, that he doesn't believe the Bible teaches that we can get sick or that sickness is normal. I don't really know what he's trying to say, which is kind of half the problem. Yes, we do get sick. Actually, there's an interesting, if you're into like church history like I am, you can go read Athanasius on the incarnation of Christ. He's one of my favorite church fathers, and he talks about how Christ never got sick, and the reason he says that is that it was necessary for Christ to never be sick, because what would it look like if the Son of Man, who has come to heal others, can't even keep himself from being sick? And so he says that Jesus, therefore, never actually had an illness. However, the rest of us do. It's all over the Bible, us getting sick. And I think what the other guy is saying is, yes, Jesus doesn't heal everybody. And of course, Paul tells Timothy to take wine to help with his sickness, his illness. That's in the Bible. So Christians do get sick. I think we all just went through the last couple years with a certain virus, and most, if not all of us, got it at least once, if not twice or 3 times. So Christians can get sick. So here's what I'd say. I don't know that I would call that heretical. Is it unbiblical? Absolutely. But heretical, that's another thing. So, in other words, what Mike Winger said here is correct. At least that part of the video. I haven't watched like all of his sermons, that other guy's sermons from Bethel Church. And I don't know. Like, I haven't really studied into Bethel. I know that they have super weak theology. So, do they have the gospel? Maybe. I don't know, but if Mike Winger says it, I'm likely to believe what he says, because he's a sharp cookie. He's one sharp cookie there, I might disagree with him on stuff, but, I'll take his word for it, is what I'll say. But that little clip that Doctrinal Watchdog gave us doesn't actually show, as far as I can tell, and maybe it's because I just don't understand what the guy from Bethel is actually saying. I don't know what he's trying to argue there. And part of that could just be how it was edited. I don't know. But I think it's more that he doesn't really say a lot at all. And doesn't, as Winger just said, he doesn't actually say the gospel. So let's keep going.
Listen to prepare for that message. I listened to 60 hours
Why is
of
that
Bill
suddenly
Johnson's
soft?
teachings. Okay, I did not hear a false gospel. When he rarely, I didn't see.
Just didn't model it.
Preaching a false gospel by the standard is not that Christians always get healed. That's not biblical. Nor is it in line with even reality.
They name the name of Christ. They've got the essentials of the faith. For the most part, they do. Even Bethel, I didn't see a false gospel in Bethel's teaching, not that I'm aware of. I listened to prepare for that message. I listened to 60 hours of Bill Johnson's teachings.
There we go.
Okay, I did not hear a false gospel. When he rarely spoke of the gospel, and it was rare, it was sad how rare it was. But when he spoke of it, he spoke of the true gospel.
I refuse to create a theology that allows for sickness.
The mom, and Angela, who I've known for years, decades, was like, "Hey, have you ever spoken in tongues?" And I was like, "No."
Okay,
and
so now we move on to the
like, come on,
speaking in tongues.
And so she's like, "Stand up." And we were in the middle of a Bible study, so I stood up and she started praying for me. And then Andrew, her son, walks up behind me with a pillow. And I'm like, stop it. Like, stop. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. And Mike, she full on prayed for me. And it was the weirdest thing ever. And laid hands on me. And my body went stiff. And I full on passed out. And she put her hand on my face and she said, "Speak, child." And I prayed in tongues, and the same exact time, it was as real as ever. My buddy it didn't happen for him. He was like, he didn't even fall over. I full on fell over. It was super. And after that moment, something clicked, something shifted.
All right, so Mike Winger talks about this in his video. and I think he does well. I might disagree with him on some of the finer points, but I think he does a fine job talking about this. So I'm not gonna, retread the field here. I will say for me, I'm very, very suspicious of these kinds of stories. I've been to a church where there were miraculous healings, and I was a kid. I didn't really understand what was going on. I didn't go up because that's, I'm an introvert. I'm a Baptist too. I sit in the back row, so I wasn't going up. But anywho, I really went off topic there. Anyways, so I'm very suspicious about these kinds of stories. But I do ultimately agree with Mike Winger's, what he says in the video, that just because it's not promised, which is the main problem with the Pentecostal movement, is that they expect God to do all these things, but God never actually promises to do these things. He never promises to have speaking in tongues in the way that they do it. He never promises to have you pass out. That's not in the Bible. And so these things aren't promised. Does that mean that God can't use that for his own purposes? Absolutely not. I mean, so I agree. God could, and maybe he did for Ruslan. I don't know. I'm not God. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So unless God decides to tell us in the book of Job or something of what's going on in the scene specifically with Ruslan, I don't know. Maybe we'll find out one day what God was doing. But I generally just accept if God used something that is just far-fetched, that seems to be maybe that wasn't exactly how it happened or what happened, but somehow God used whatever happened to okay, more power to God for using ways that I don't really think that he's promised to do. So I wouldn't look for somebody to have an experience where they pass out to be saved, but that doesn't mean that God doesn't do it. And maybe that's because I'm not a cessationist, but I think God can often use imperfect means to bring about people to himself. And so, he uses me all the time, and I'm definitely an imperfect means. So, yeah, I just don't. I think the problem with the Pentecostal movement is that they're expecting this. Now, I don't remember if it's in this video, but Mike Winger goes and he counters Ruslan's point, saying that he basically kind of went through the same thing, but he ended up faking passing out because everybody was expecting it and it didn't actually happen to him. And that's kind of the point. That's the problem with the Pentecostal church idea, is that it leads to, I think, false conversions, false miracles, because people can feel pressured to be expected to do stuff. So maybe they just start speaking gibberish because that's what everybody else is doing. And maybe God does speak to some people or have some people speak in gibberish, but I don't think he does. But maybe he does. I don't know. That's not how it's used in the Bible, but that doesn't mean he doesn't do it today. But I think that ends up assuming that let's assume that God does do that, which I don't think he does, but let's assume he does. It can lead to people who feel pressure to, and so they start saying gibberish, and then over time, because they feel pressured, suddenly they just feel like this is how God is using them, when really it's just them being peer pressured into speaking gibberish. Yeah, so I think that it's a fair point. Mike Winger goes into a lot more detail about this, but I think the video kind of has I thought it was pretty funny that he fake passed out it, but the guy who was reacting to this video that Winger was reacting to didn't find it funny. That's okay. Not for everybody. I thought it was hilarious. So let's see here. You can go listen to this whole video. Mike does respond. This might be this over here.
Spirit. The whole slain in the spirit thing, like passing out, that kind of thing, I admittedly go, that seems a little strange to me, but it doesn't mean that it therefore is something God can't do. Okay, I hear your story and I go, I don't have a good enough reason to just discount everything you've said. I'm going to trust that.
Okay, so the other guy, basically, and I think the implication here is that, I think the implication is that Mike Winger was slain in the spirit. But he actually wasn't. He was actually countering Ruslan's story by saying that, maybe for some people, maybe God does do this. I don't know. But, I think that more often than not, it's probably more peer pressure or people faking it till they make it, And so that's kind of the point of his story, not that Mike Winger was giving his own personal testimony about how he was slain in the spirit. Anywho, we'll see if there's anything more. Okay, here we go. This is the commentary. So yeah, okay. So just to recap, Mike Winger is a charismatic who speaks in tongues. This has got to be like satire, right? Says he believes people's testimony about being slain in the spirit, and he and Ruslan Katie are happy to trash John MacArthur, while in the same video defend arch heretic Bill Johnson of Bethel Church. So I didn't talk about the John MacArthur thing. So Ruslan was talking about John MacArthur's commentary, which I got a MacArthur study Bible, and I have a hard time reading the MacArthur study Bible because it's all in a dispensational worldview, and I'm just like, I don't really care for dispensationalism, so it's not really helpful, even though I generally agree with John MacArthur on a lot of other stuff. So I'm happy to trash John MacArthur, I guess. No, I love John MacArthur. He's a great guy, and that's one thing that Mike Winger does say. But really, in this video, if I didn't really show it, but all Mike Winger does in the clips that are given in this video is like nod his head while Ruslan is talking about the or trashing the commentary of John MacArthur. All right, so Mike Winger is a charismatic. That's real good, right? Who speaks in tongues? He never said he speaks in tongues, I don't think. Maybe I need to listen to that again. Says he believes people's testimonies about being slain in the spirit. All right, so let me go on a quick tangent. We'll get to this. I had a real great friend who I still love, that I found out had, been lying to me for a long time, and about just about who he was, and I had to decide like how I was going to deal with that. And so what I decided was that I love the guy, and even though he was lying to me, it didn't really affect my life at all. Like it didn't really impact what I was going to do or how I should treat him. And so I had like no reason to, I don't know, like it was just stupid stuff. So it was just like personal experiences and stuff. So basically I just chose to believe him. Like I knew it was far-fetched. He was stretching the truth a lot, but it just didn't matter that much to me. And I kind of feel like with Ruslan, like I don't know really what's going on with his testimony. I don't know that Ruslan's necessarily lying about this, but maybe something else happened and he was deceived about it. I don't know. It doesn't really matter to the context of today. So obviously some lies or some things are important to like question, like, is that really what happened? And I kind of do feel that with Ruslan, his testimony, like, I don't know that that's really what was going on there, but the outcome is, in this case, I think is what's important, is that he did find Christ, that he has, supposedly, again, I don't know the guy, supposedly has found Christ and turned to faith, and maybe he does believe in those things, you know, agree to disagree. But I'm okay with just generally believing it until proven otherwise. You know, it's not gonna really affect what I do. I'm not gonna be like, oh well, this is true because KD said it, or Ruslan KD said it. You know, so maybe Doctrinal Watchdog will do a video on me and says, I believe people's testimonies about being slain in the Spirit. Yeah, I don't think that's what Mike Winger would say. He just believes that God used whatever happened to bring about Ruslan to faith, and that's probably generally what I would say. All right, so here we go. Ark heretic Bill Johnson. I'm not gonna say that Bill Johnson isn't a heretic. I don't know. I've never actually heard of this person. I know more about Bethel Church because I'm a lot more involved with music and stuff, but and I know like how weak their theology is in their music, and it probably is echoed in their preaching as well. So I have no. I'm inclined to believe that. I don't know if I'd use the word heretic as much, or arch heretic, but as much as say like false teacher. False teacher is a lot easier. I can see that, you know, but again, I haven't actually watched Bill Johnson except for like this video, so you know, it's whatever. Like, okay. In recent videos, we have documented Mike Winger's praise of Preston Sprinkle of Revoice, along with his general defense of the Revoice movement and Side B theology, aka gay Christianity. Okay. Mike Winger counters that. So he does not agree with Revoice. And I think we're going to watch in a second the follow-up to this video. But I think that they might have taken one of the videos down about Revoice. Doctrinal Watchdog, that is. So, yeah. Alright. Winger also told Joel Webb, I don't know who that is, of Right Response Ministries that Christians are obliged to keep the Ten Commandments. I think it's are not obliged to keep the Ten Commandments is what he means here. I think that's one of his videos. And that's a different discussion. Are the Ten Commandments for Christians? Must we keep them? Yes. No. Sort of. What does it mean to obey Christ? These are all great questions. Yes, we should obey the Ten Commandments, apparently, except for the Sabbath. Everybody wants to, disobey the Sabbath, but whatever. I think Mike would say, yes, you should obey the Ten Commandments, but it's also that Christ has satisfied us when we don't obey the Ten Commandments, and that's the gospel. We don't obey the Ten Commandments or any of the other laws of God, and so we need Christ to obey them perfectly for us. So he's also promoted Dr. Michael Brown on his channel, a notorious defender of heretics. Okay. Again, he's not assuming that what Doctrinal Watchdog says in this sentence is true. Just because Dr. Michael Brown, whoever that is, defends heretics doesn't mean that he himself is a bad person himself or an unbeliever. So some people can defend people that they shouldn't defend because we all make mistakes, but that doesn't necessarily mean about it. So why is it included? I don't know. All right, that's pretty much the end of the video. All right, so Mike Winger puts out his video. You should go watch it. I'm gonna link it in the info. Here is Doctrinal Watchdog's response to that. This was posted today, and he says, I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can see this, but in his info it says, if Mike Winger can do videos disagreeing with people, why can't we disagree with him? #fairness. I'm like, okay, it's not that you're necessarily disagreeing with him, but it kind of looks like you're you're telling lies about the guy. Like that last video, you were saying that he said or did things that he obviously did not. And I think, yeah. So let's keep going. I'm not going to run down that tangent. I gotta wrap this up. Mike Winger responds to the DW channel, Doctrinal Watchdog.
I am going to be doing a video to respond to someone called Doctrinal Watchdog, who's like, I don't know who this anonymous person is, who's been systematically taking clips of me out of context to try to make people think I teach and
not
believe
out of context.
I don't believe. I tried to correct the person. They ignored.
We took his corrections and removed the word endorsed regarding Preston Sprinkle.
The Bible Thumping Wingnut News Network, another Christian YouTube channel.
That's the other guy.
Who I consider brothers in Christ. They did this whole video of like how I slandered John MacArthur and
we never said slandered.
Basically a bunch of things that I don't believe.
What did you say? You said trashed him. They trashed MacArthur.
I tried to correct them. They left my comments up, but they left the video up that says things about me that aren't true. I'm going to be responding to all this here as soon as I can pull it together. I find this to be an annoying distraction from my work on women in ministry, which is what I'm absorbing every waking moment with right now, trying to get ready for the next study. And that's my primary focus. But I'll do a short video. Well, it won't be short, but I'll try to spend
it's about an hour
long.
As I can it's a pretty good video
to deal with these supposed things, because you know what? This is exactly how discernment ministry is not supposed to be run, where you look for any quote you can find out of any context and try to rip and destroy people's reputations.
We are disagreeing, not trying to destroy. Okay, I think you can say just with what we watched. I don't know that I'd say he was destroying, but it's a little more than disagreement. You're calling this guy like, you're not saying, hey, I disagree with this guy. You're saying, you're making claims about the guy. You are slandering. You're saying this guy believes this when he obviously doesn't believe this. And part of that of Mike Winger's whole video, man, this is a long video. Part of Mike Winger's video is going through and saying, here's clips of me saying exactly what I believe, not what you say I believe. So you're not just disagreeing with him. You're saying you're not. I wouldn't say you're trying to destroy him, but you do have like a ton of videos on Mike Winger, a lot of them, which might just be for the views. I don't know. I mean, everybody's trying to get that YouTube views, but anywho, I don't know if I'd say you're just a matter of disagreement. There's better ways of handling it, but. Not, you're probably not trying to destroy him. That is maybe an overstatement for Mike, but he's on the defense. He's allowed to. I think he's allowed a little wiggle room there. But you are doing more than just disagreeing. Like you're saying things about him that are not true.
Wolf in sheep's clothing and all this other kind of stuff.
All right, here we go. I kind of wish he would just like say this, but. I guess we'll get the word scroll. Mike Winger, respectfully, sir, you post videos all the time expressing your disagreements with others. Why is it, sir, that when we do the same thing disagreeing with you, we are just trying to destroy people? We never said you slandered John MacArthur. Well, not technically, but you said trash, which is different, but yeah. Not sure Tim Hurd said that either, but we know for certain we didn't. nor have we said that you are a wolf in sheep's clothing. In fact, many times online we have said we are not calling you a false teacher. If you're not calling him a false teacher, why are you? It's definitely slander. It's definitely slander. I don't know if it's not as bad as some people. I mean, there's definitely worse responses, but they're saying things about him that's not true. That's all I'm saying. They're saying things about Mike Winger that's not true. That's the problem. All right. Even if you're not saying he's a false teacher, because in false teacher, in biblical terms, what I'm going to say is that's somebody who's preaching something contrary to the gospel. Somebody, even if they're not like directly saying a false gospel, they're leading people away from the gospel in what they say. All right. We also received your correction. This is what I was talking about regarding press and sprinkle when we use the word endorse. You took issue and we respectfully deleted it. So, at least there's some discussion here. I don't mean this as like an attack on Doctrinal Watchdog. Just because, the videos there aren't really my style. Maybe they're your style. And so some of this is a little, YouTube drama. But I think that Mike Winger does make some great points as to why he responded. And really, I just responded because I thought that, not that Mike Winger needs some rando with no subscribers, except for the few that did, thank you, replying to it. But I think that, truth is important. And I don't mean this to be an attack on anybody. I disagree with a lot of people on a lot of stuff. That's fine. But I think truth is important. And so I do think we need to be careful about how we're putting things. And I mean, Lord knows I exaggerate my point from time to time. But, I think it's, I thought it might be helpful to have somebody who might lean closer to the theology of Doctrinal Watchdog to talk about this theology. Because I do lean closer to MacArthur than I do Mike Winger in some areas. Yeah, even though other areas, obviously I'm not a cessationalist, so I would be very far away from MacArthur. But, maybe my perspective helps somebody. Be like, hey, okay, somebody that's not a free willy that has a different perspective on this that agrees with what Mike Winger has said, that this seems to be kind of, I said slanderous earlier. It's that they're painting a false picture of Mike Winger. I don't know if they're intentionally trying to discredit him. I don't know what his motives are over at DW. I can't help when he said DW think of Daily Wire, but yeah. So all in all, I agree with Mike Winger on this. I think he's a pretty good guy, and maybe Doctrinal Watchdog has some good stuff out there. I don't know. I don't really watch his stuff. Not to say that it's bad. I just it's not my style of videos to watch. So yeah, just let me know what your thoughts are. I think that Mike has handled himself well. Even though I disagree with some of his statements, I do think overall he's handled this pretty well. I do really respect how he handles criticism. If I handled criticism that well, we'd be in good shape. But yeah, Christians debate things. Christians have disagreements, and we ruffle each other's feathers up. That's just part of life in a sinful world. But hey, there's good news. Christ died for us, and even though we weren't perfect, he was. And so even though people that we admire and look up to may say or do things that are contrary to the Word of God or contrary to the the character of Christ. Our hope isn't in other people. Our hope isn't in the people that we follow. Our hope is in Christ. And so we know that Christ perfectly encapsulates goodness and faithfulness. And so even when we or the people we follow don't, we trust in Christ. So I'm saying all that to say, like, sometimes people make mistakes. And, sometimes people, including myself, we make arguments or we make videos that aren't the right characterization. But the good news is, Christ is always faithful to treat everybody fairly. So, yeah. Let me know what you thought of that. I hope it was helpful. If not, it is what it is. I enjoy talking about it, so there's something, and I will keep watching Mike Winger. I think he's a good and faithful brother, even if I disagree with him on certain things. I don't watch every video he does, but I do watch a lot of his stuff. So I've found his ministry helpful. I joked about the Calvinism free willy thing. I think that he's probably the best. He has the best argument for free will in Romans 9 that I've ever heard. I completely disagree with everything he says about it, but I think that it's the best well-spoken argument for free will in Romans 9. So go check that out. It's a good video. It's good for us Calvinists to sharpen our understanding of the other side, and know what the height of their argument is, and it's definitely that. And so I appreciate that he's always cautious in going into and trying to understand what the Bible says and basing what he believes off of that. Even if I disagree with him on a number of things. So, anyways, I'll catch you next time. Peace.